This is John Rankin, and we're starting the 2024 February 12th Parking Advisory Committee meeting. All right, shall I start with the agenda? Okay,
As we begin the agenda, because I'm not local and I won't be able to do this, would it be okay for one of you or maybe Matt to capture the timestamps onto the agenda and mail that to Ruth Miller by morning or in the morning?
I can take notes on my agenda.
I will certainly be timing everything as I have been doing.
So in the morning, Ruth would like our agenda, and on the left side of the agenda, I put the timestamps, and that's all she needs. She doesn't need any of the meeting minutes. And then she takes that and uses that as a timestamp for the agenda that's video recorded.
Right. Between Matt and I, we will take care of that.
Okay, and Matt, you have Ruth Miller's email because I've been copying you on the last couple ones that I've sent to her.
Probably in there somewhere.
Okay, Ruth Miller she's at CTV, I think it is, something like that. Thank you all.
and is John with you for the attendance?
Yes, John is here.
Okay.
He just walked
right.
downstairs. He's here.
Well, I welcome in public comment. Is there any public comment before we begin further?
Julia, we resolved our conversation with you? She left.
Okay, just us five then?
Okay.
All right, Julia, it says in the waiting room, so I don't,
Well, that worked.
try again.
That means you have to let her in?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
yeah,
not.
yeah, okay. All right, then additions or deletions to the agenda, I have one, just to review the expiring terms in 2024.
Let's put that at the end then.
Okay,
7.5, let's put that at 7:50.
okay. All right, any other additions or deletions to the agenda?
John, or all, maybe a 2 or 3 minute review of the select board agenda, because there was at least one to do about Willis Hill, as I recall, but just general. Maybe if we could
Is that
put
is that on the agenda already?
We have put on the agenda, discuss our goals that were mentioned to the select board.
That's fine.
All good.
All right, so then starting in with the first agenda item, discussion of TAC goals for 2024 as presented to the select board. One, uplift of signage and ropes at Checker House. Do you know what that is, Chuck?
Yep, so one of the things we pitched as being one of our goals 2024 was to improve the look of the parking at Checker House. I have done a application with the V-Trans to have the signage added, that there be seasonal parking signs there May 15th to November 15th. That's quite a process. Early conversations with V-Trans suggest that if we're going to do something with the borders there, that we use a 4x4 post and some brighter colored ropes as opposed to rocks or any other kind of fencing or something along those lines. Other than that, that's where that sits.
All right, next, create additional parking for Gillette Pond near the dam.
Wait, 1 second.
One
Oh, go ahead.
thing that I think did come up, it was a small thing, but they asked us about Willis Hill. There was kind of a question of which things we covered and which we didn't. And I think it's probably worth us kind of looking, well, what other places are we not talking about that we should be? You know, there are places that we have on our map, like Willis Hill or the West White Hill parking. Do we want to do anything about that? I mean, I think they're on our map, but we don't report out on them. What was the thought that people had?
I think the other, John Cone, continuing along what John was saying, Andrews, the Andrews Town Forest that came up and then dismissed, and John Rankin, do you know the name of the one? I think it's up on Brown's Trace.
Yeah, so
That
Brown's
was-
Court recreational
No,
area.
But there's a biking. I don't know of it, but I think it's on. I thought it was off of Brown's Trace.
I believe they were talking about the water tower pull-off. Is that right?
Yeah, but that's not a recreational.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But
No,
there- I
they're,
think-
The Southview has a pull-off that's listed as the parking for the recreation path that heads north from there. I don't
John
know if
Rankin, John Rankin, do you know if that's on our map? I'm sorry, I don't have it's not on our map, John. My
Willis Hill
John
is-
Cone is saying it's not on our map.
Willis Hill and Andrews, Willis Hill is, I don't know if Andrews Forest is, that one on Southview, I don't even know about. So I think that to do the follow-up here would be to add those to the map.
Did
Yeah.
you hear what John's saying?
Just a point of order here, folks. Maybe it's just me taking minutes. But we started out talking about the PAC goals presented to the select board. And we started about Checkered House Bridge. We got into Gillette Pond, and then we, from my standpoint, we started talking about things that maybe weren't PAC goals presented to the select board. So
I think-
where are we in the process here, what I'm asking?
I
think we
believe
should
this is
stick to
part
the
of the, go ahead, Chuck.
I think we should stick to the agenda. And we can add a section in. We've got plenty of time today, but let's try to work through the agenda points without getting too far off into the bushes.
Was the first agenda point to go over follow-up from the select board, or is that later on?
No, the first agenda point is
Okay.
discussion of PAC goals for 2024 as presented to the select board.
Okay.
Why don't
We
we
will-
add
Good point of,
the end of this discussion, John, if you want to do a review at 6:30, if you want to do a review of your presentation to the select board, why don't we do that then?
Okay,
okay, that's fine. Yeah, it'd just be a couple minutes.
yep.
Are we now on create additional parking for Gillette Pond
Yes.
near the dam?
We are.
All right, so I'm not sure we can make any decisions tonight about making further recommendations to the select board. What we had heard from Pete Goslin was he was estimating using purchased fill, not fill from the land trust, be $4,000, $4,081.35 to create 6 parking places next to Bob Lowe's property across the road from the dam, where some of us had previously walked with Bob Lowe and understood the advantages of that location. There's lots of complications. One was that Keith from the town planner said that we should inform him if that was to proceed. Does that sound right to you, John and Chuck?
Yeah, I think, is Keith on zoning? or is he town planner?
I think he's town planner.
Okay.
We know that Pete thinks it's dangerous to have people walking across the street. Perhaps that happens some anyways. How this all began was a Richmond PD, correct me on this, Chuck, asked some people to move their cars. And then it turned into, the story got distorted and we heard that they had received tickets. And then the neighbors have also said that people have been parking there for generations without incident. So, and then the concern that there'll be additional demand and the new parking area being constructed by the Richmond Land Trust will not be sufficient.
Yeah,
So,
I think regardless of the history, we do see, I believe I speak for all of us, that we see a need for additional parking up there. I guess I think to get Pete's input on this, we really need to move this forward to the select board as a recommendation that we have that fill added and those parking areas created. And then we would get an approval from the town planner, and then Pete could certainly let everybody know of his concerns. So I guess I would make a motion that we move forward with suggesting to the select board that this additional parking be created on the north side of Gillette's Pond on Bob Lowe's right away.
and we had discussed starting at the 35-mile-an-hour sign going north 120 feet. Yeah.
All second.
I'm in agreement with that.
Was that needing a second?
We did
Second.
get a second from
Okay.
Matt.
Okay.
Okay.
John Cone and Diane Mariano say aye.
I,
And included in the motion is approaching the select board for input, right? Or was that not?
Recommending to the select board.
Okay, recommend, okay.
So here's a question that I don't know the answer to. Is this driven by us? And if that's the case, yes, we go in front of the select board. Also, it might be good for one or two of us to sort of work on this outside of this, because we do need to talk to Keith Orborn, and he is the director of planning and zoning. And I think there's steps that are involved. And the other part that was talked about is coinciding this with the work at the dam this summer, whenever it begins, because that fill might just come from what they're taking out. It just seems like it needs a coordination within us somehow. An ownership, a partnership with maybe two people working on this together.
John Rankin, can I ask a clarification? When
Yes.
Pete gave you those numbers, he said he was pricing it for using new fill. Is that because he preferred new fill or because he didn't have an alternative?
Both the Cochrane Road and West White Hill are identical. And he has specific, I guess I don't know the answer. 1.5 plant mixed gravel, 3/4 plant mixed gravel.
Yeah, I think. So they're basically gonna build a road bank there with fabric and heavier gravel, fabric, thinner gravel, and topping it off in both cases. I think it was originally my idea to try to use some of the dam fill, but to be honest with you, I don't know if that's gonna be as stable as doing the correct fill.
All right, and that may be Pete's decision also. I can see the value of that. for his, if he's gonna support it being on the highway department, he wants to probably own it and build it in some sense to his requirements. So, okay, I just feel like it might be helpful for one or maybe two of us to take on this project and maybe do a little due diligence outside of our meetings together, just to clarify some of these things and get on timetables and get on select board. Just a thought.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that's probably the better prepared we are going to the select board, the better off we would be.
It'd be a good, yeah, it'd be good to really site visit. Just to do our due diligence, to have all these facts, Bob, any other neighbors that may be impacted, maybe, what there's, I don't know, the first house on Durand Road. I don't know, I just feel like we should follow, do a little bit of work on this before we go in front of the select board.
I'm not sure we officially passed the motion or seconded.
We do anything with
I think we did. And I am in agreement because it takes a while to get on the select board.
Yes, I'm waiting to see what we decide to do with the Cochrane Road before I volunteer for this project.
Okay, we can always come back to this. I think that, yeah, I think that's acceptable. I just think, yeah, we can continue.
Okay, so at the moment, we passed a resolution to recommend to the select board that they add 6 parking places on the shoulder across from the dam. Is that not in those words, but
Yeah.
that's what we did.
And we're still under the general heading of discussion of PAC goals. Presented to the select board.
Okay, yes, so we're moving down to the next item, reconsider improvements to Over Rocker parking area. Is that the next item?
it. I see
And
that.
I don't know
Correct.
what that is.
No, that came directly off of John's slide, so maybe he can tell us what the thought was with that.
Okay, as we went through each of the slide things, we put a next element, and this was sort of our intent. And for Overrocker, we had some ideas for some additional signage, and even perhaps more. We've met with Trails and Recreation, but given the summer and the flooding down there, that all had to be put on hold. So the thought was, do we want to take that up and consider it again? At the very least, the thought was working with Trails or Recreation. I'm not sure whose purview it was, to get better signage in the parking lot and better signage at the road indicating the river access. That's what I recall.
I also recall that, prior to our flooding last summer, we had lots of great ideas for Overrocker, the signage, we even mentioned picnic table, little area. And boy, it certainly showed that this is a volatile area when it comes to flooding. And personally, I think we could do some seasonal signage there that might be helpful to people there, but I don't think it's valuable to put any time and money into a more permanent sign when it's can float away.
So the one question I had was about whose purview it is, and when we met with Trails and Recreation, the question is, would we put the sign? It's in one of our parking lots, but it's related to recreating. So the question would be, Is that us or them or a combination?
And do we want to do it? It's good to revisit it. How's everyone feeling about that?
Well, I'm curious, you guys know more about it than I do. I'm just curious as to, when you refer to better signage, just some thoughts from my education about what is insufficient about what's there currently.
I think one of the thoughts was, I think it all comes down to if we could increase the use of Overrocker, especially as overflow, so people who are looking to recreate on the river have options. The idea is to make sure that it was very clear when you're driving by that there's river access, and that when you're in the parking lot, it's very clear where the river access starts and where the trails are. I think that the key thing was a map. I believe there's a small sign that says trail, but it doesn't say, you know, how do you get to the water and where should you go? So I think it's all about making the place more usable. And it's an interesting question because, you know, it was kind of a windfall. Matt, going back to the history of it, this land was property of the town, and it was being used pretty much as a dump, or, you know, for not dump, but for road
It's construction.
material. And we were able to make it into a park, which is kind of was a cool windfall. But the fact that it isn't you know, it's sort of new, it's a little bit off the beaten path. Some people might be unaware of it. Some people may be nervous about parking down there. So a question is, you know, do we want to try to increase its usage, or?
Well, I think the other, following that up, John, is that you know, people are looking for places to cool off, and if everything's filled up on Dugway and other places, do they know that they can access some nice beaches along that way, or down by the beacon canoe access? You know, that was, you know, more information, and I guess just trying to give alternatives to other places to recreate when those places are filled.
So it sounds like some of this, a lot of it bleeds over into not our committee, meaning it's not, we're all about parking, but so I don't know. What do you, Diane and John, what are you proposing that we should be doing as far as that we should talk to the Trails Committee, Parks and Recreation? What are you proposing?
Yeah, but the Trails Committee has already told us that they don't do maps. They do online mapping. So I don't think, how do we, you know, rather than always say where you can't park, we were trying to, you know, part of PAC was trying to say, hey, you can park here and get to these water places. And, you know, maybe we don't do anything. Wonder if there's a way, here's a question for everybody, John Cohn. It is now on Google Maps.
Correct.
It's on Google Maps. Is there a way that we can icon that spot on Google Maps to say river usage and trails? Because that would be in our purview.
Yeah, so the process there is you can nominate essentially any place you want to be on Google Maps, and they curate it just to make sure that it's not abused. But they'll let you put anything you want. Let me see what's there right now.
I think minimally we could do that.
I suggest we make this a separate agenda item for like the next meeting. Because we're just thinking about moving along.
We could do that also. Sure.
This is a separate issue, and
It's
we're not-
February. We don't need to do it right now. We just spent a lot of time before the flooding trying to talk about things that we could do down at Overrocker. And either we don't do anything because it floods so traumatically, or we do a little something. And I'm happy to put it on the next agenda. It's February. It's all right.
All right, so move on to,
East Cochran.
East
East Cochran.
Cochran. All right, so we do have Pete's identical proposal on what it would take to add 6 parking places. I'm not sure, since it's the exact same amount and the grade looks steeper to me, I don't know if that's exactly what it would come out to. But we have that. One thing I noted in John's presentation, and maybe it was just the wording he chose, was a suggestion that one could still park there. It was just more difficult, which differs from my impression, and perhaps it depends on the vehicle and the driver, that next to no one is going to want to park there unless they're in a monster truck. And so I don't know if a site visit would be appropriate or not. I had seen that as a sort of a compromise, that we were eliminating most of the parking adjacent to the meadow, but we were leaving those spaces, and then by chance that new pavement came in. The other information I have is this late email today from Jim Feinson of the Richmond Land Trust, and I'll just briefly read. The RLT has not revisited plans for the ADA parking at Bombardier. I guess we will do so in March. And so that refers to the plan to create ADA or handicap parking and create a turnaround. And so we don't know whether that's something that they want to go forward with. And in the past, there have been contradictory views on the board as to what they wanted to do.
Good. No, I think that's, that really, whether they do ADA parking there or not, doesn't really affect our discussions. I
Yeah.
don't think we're gonna be competing with ADA parking with that area.
Right. And presumably there'll be some neighbors who would just assume that no one parked near the meadow.
But we've had one, in the 2 years I've been on the board, committee, we've had one public input regarding East Cochran Road, and that's been the complaining about the lack of parking there.
Yeah,
A year ago, we went to the select board, and as you say, we banned the parking in the great majority of that, and the only compromise was that we showed a green area
yeah,
toward the bridge that was public parking. So
yeah.
I think we need to stick with that promise
Uh-huh.
and make that a public parking area and
Uh-huh.
have that berm added.
I personally am okay with that.
I guess it wasn't a motion yet. We're still, I think
Okay.
we're still- no, I agree. No, I appreciate that. We're still milling.
Yeah,
My only question is, and I think it's a big one, last summer, we changed a lot. We changed the ordinances both on Dugway and on East Cochran Road. And then we had another strange summer. My thought would be, the prudent thing would be, and I think site visit makes sense, but I think the prudent thing might be, let's give it a real summer and see if people do have, before we solve that problem. That would be I think that's the procedure we've had in the past. We try something and see how it works. And I think both on Dugway and East Cochran, we weren't able to do that. So that's just a consideration.
I think when we presented to the select board, one of the pieces we presented to them that was we would have all that parking, no parking area that you wanted all the way around there, but we did indicate on the map you had made that section there would be green and that would be allowed. I think at the time we called it 8 cars. But I don't know that anything has really changed too much from that.
I agree.
Agree.
It was just, my main point is not that would not be available. The question would be, would you want to put something in that was, kind of irrevocable before we saw how this works. That's the only thought. I mean, I believe that is parking and should be. And the question is, do we want to augment it before we see a summer's worth of work? Or do we think that we know?
The only, adding my opinion, I'm hesitant to dump gravel 12 feet in, 130 feet long. Before the Richmond Land Trust has finished their work. And the reason is, the line of sight for them to come in and out of there. I would like to know what they're gonna do there first. I don't know, obviously this has to go to, other committees, maybe the zoning. It is a floodplain area, and I don't know if you can put that much gravel in a floodplain. I know that you can do shoulder work, and maybe that's different than putting that much fill there. I don't know. The putting whatever we put there, if we are allowed to do that, with the floodplain, I know that one woman was concerned about what's happening over Rocker. So we probably should get an opinion on this from somebody on that. So I feel like some due diligence needs to happen here also. A little bit more fact finding. What would that be like? Site visit is always good on both of these locations. I personally, I feel that putting a parking area out in front of somebody's front door, as the pews on the corner are going to experience. I feel very heavy-hearted doing that. When we were up on Dugway, we really did look around for whose driveway we were near and whose house we were near. That's a big step for me to do that. So I don't feel like I would support any action with the select board at this time. I think we need to fill in these gaps and have some conversation with landowners and bring it forward a little bit more.
Can someone educate me briefly? I'm sorry.
Can you open that document?
Show me where I'm going. I said in here,
I'm sorry, don't worry
um,
Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I'm still getting up to speed on some of this.
USBD,
Yep, sure.
this one.
Well, this would be better. So the area that we're talking about, as far as adding fill or improvement, does that area not encroach upon Richmond Land Trust property, or does it encroach in part? Where's the line between the two?
I believe it's in the right of way.
So what we're talking about here, is all within the right of way.
And now it's on the map there, the green, a Richmond Land
Can we
Trust.
share that, or are we sharing that?
Oh, I guess, tell me how to do that.
At the bottom,
Okay,
let's see.
thank you.
It won't be on,
Okay.
ours will be different.
Oh yeah, ours is different. You see share content?
Or do I go up to here? And then this one's in the way.
Close that. X that one out.
Okay. And share screen, it is sharing.
Sharing screen. So if you're sharing screen, if you open this word, they should be able to see.
Oh, you're right. There's Word. So can people see that?
Not yet.
Did you, you might have to hit OK or something, or wait.
It's not us.
And I don't know if this is crucial.
What are you looking at, John? Are you looking at the,
We have the map of what we presented to the select board a year ago. And what
Mhm.
they based their decision on for our change of ordinances.
Gotcha.
And And looking at the section, we all agreed as the compromise that we would have parking. I just want to kind of remind people, this whole ordinance change was based on this compromise and was part of what we presented to the select board. I don't think at this point in time, we can take that back.
And I guess another thing to recall before the start of the meeting was Josh had talked about adjacent landowners, and particularly here, John and Diane, whether they would abstain for a vote about property that's adjacent to their own.
I didn't know that part.
I didn't know that part either.
I don't know that part. I think, just to separate
Yeah,
two issues is that I do believe that's the negotiation we made for the ordinance. And I think that that's going to be binding. I think that what's in question is when we would do improvements. And I think the big question is, as John, you've pointed out, is did the paving substantively change what, people's ability to use that park? And that's, so.
Well, I mean, and I in agreement, it created a lift. And I have no problem, putting it right so that somebody can park there. I just have a hard time with the depth going into the Bombardier Meadow. It seems kind of deep. Into, I don't think 12 feet is part of right of way. I could be wrong. Right of way usually is alongside the road, but maybe 12 feet is.
Is that 12 feet based on what the right of way is, John? Where did that number come?
I don't know. And perhaps whatever the rules that apply here might be similar to West White. I do believe Keith wanted to be kept in the loop on both areas.
Mhm.
It might be good for us to meet with him
knows,
and become a little bit more educated on this.
I'm trying to remember how many rod road that is. Is that? Yeah, I think that would be a good conversation.
and as I think I said, the land trust, at least initially, maybe not as a committee, but was supportive of the idea of roadside parking in that area.
Along this, I also think if the sign that shows the land trust put there, it says no parking, where that bump out, their access point is a good place to park. And I think some people don't know that you can park into here, but you just can't go through here. And we might request that the land trust say no parking beyond this point or something like that, put a different sign up there so that people can pull in addition to what we're doing here.
I think we've reached the point where we need to have future conversation about this and ponder where we're at. And
Yeah.
Our next agenda item.
Yeah, and I
Okay,
think-
do we need a site visit yet? Or do we want to wait until after the next meeting?
We need to talk about next meetings also.
Okay.
Just because do we need a site visit? Your question is, do we want a site visit before the next meeting?
And unless it's posted, only two of us can go there at a time.
Yeah, I think two of us should take these two questions, these two areas, both to Keith and then double check with Pete. And then see, maybe even pull Josh in to see what else are we missing? What else do we need? What's the process? And then bring that back to the group. And I'm happy to work on that. John, you and I can work on that if you like.
Okay, if I'm the John you're talking to, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely not me.
Yes.
Yeah, that would not be right, for sure.
Okay,
Diane, what is Keith's last name?
Oborn, Oborn. RNE, I think. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Is
Yeah.
that right? Yes, Lisa's shaking her yes. Her
I
head
think a
yes.
key thing too would be to figure out the width of the right of way. Who could
Well,
tell us
he,
that? Is
all that, I,
oh,
I
he
I
would
think,
tell us?
I think
It's a
as we,
60-foot road, so that's 15 feet.
as we
30
move
feet
into
from
the
center.
next process, I think that, yeah, we need to, again, just more due diligence and more information, more crossing all our Ts, if you don't mind me saying. I'd like to be more prepared.
All right, there's no ordinance change involved, so maybe we have more time to work things out than we did a year ago. Is that right? Yes, if we wanted something in place for the summer season, we have more flexibility.
Certainly have more time to deal with the Gillette's Pond than we do with East Crocker Road.
Yes,
East Crocker Road
okay.
should be on the front burner.
Okay.
But I do think you're right. There's no ordinance change involved, so that's easier.
But
whatever we decide.
yeah. All right, so, John Rankin, can I come back on the 18th of February, so you and I can talk, maybe on my return, and we can get some of these things taken care
Okay,
of.
I have a vacation coming up too, so we'll have to see if it's.
Okay, sounds good.
There- Yeah,
So-
and there's a couple of factual things that we could figure out, like the setback for
Yeah, we'll do
right
all
of way
that.
and stuff that we can do
Yeah,
before that.
Yeah.
If you guys can do that.
yeah, we're all good. All right,
Okay, so we're moving on, and actually, I think was there something that we were gonna add to?
Yes,
What's,
John Cohn had brought up the Willis Hill. He wanted to talk about that. I think Chuck suggested we squeeze that in.
I'm putting it at 6:48, putting in John Cohn's review of select board presentation.
So basically, I think it went well. It was received well. We got, I think generally positive feedback. I think my main, and I don't, I'm curious if anybody else took notes, but my main takeaway was, how do we talk about, the parking places that we haven't been traditionally talking about? So Andrews Town Forest, Willis Hill, this potential place in Southview, and I didn't know if there were any more, but I do think that the feedback was, what do we do for those? And I think one thing would be to make sure they're correct on the map. I know Willis Hill is there. I don't know if I have Andrews Town Forest, but we should make that, and I certainly don't have the one for Southview. So we should make all those correct, because I do think that stuff does actually get visited, because I can actually see how often it's hit. I think that was the main thing. I think that just because it's on the map, for example, the Huntington Gorge parking that is right up there, we list it, but we haven't done anything on it, so we haven't reported back. So I think it's just making sure that our listings are correct, and maybe giving a short thought as we do that. Is there anything needed from PAC? That was my only substantive takeaway I had. Did anybody else have any?
So some of these may be not town property, like the speculation, or my recollection is Willis Hill is Richmond Land Trust, but we can still have it on our map. Is
That's our understanding with the RLT, that they're more than happy. As a matter of fact, most of them are.
I think Diane had made a good addition there, that we need to somehow the town has to have a better way of enforcing what happens at the land trust parking areas. Because as is, your average person can't call in and complain about a parking issue at the land trust parking area. It has to come from the land trust. Interesting story, and I don't know how this pairs in there, is I caught two guys breaking into a car at the canoe access 5 or 10 years ago, and I turned around and stopped them and called the police, and they were there to buy heroin from their dealer. But bottom line is, somehow I was on the land trust parking area, and I wasn't a land trust member, yet the police came. So maybe it's not that weird.
Was there more for this agenda item?
One other thing, just a clarification, is that we on the overnight parking, we proposed some language my understanding is in an advisory role, we did our part and we don't need to, it's not our job to push that through the select board, but I believe it's the right thing to do. Lisa, is that your understanding that we didn't, we, as an advisory council, we said, here's some specific language. That would be something that the select board would have to take up, correct? Okay.
Yep, I just unmuted. Yeah, John, you guys get,
Oh, you just muted again by
Oh, you're
accident.
muted.
there we go. Yeah, we're probably at least 100% likely to take your advice, maybe 120%. So
Okay.
yeah, it's, you get a chance to study issues much longer than we do. Plus you have background and you know what you're doing. So it'd be a no-brainer.
So Lisa, who is, we presented it, everyone thought, yeah. Do we continue to, I mean, that was the first time we ever had that parks ordinance booklet. Is our job done or should I ask Josh that?
Ask Josh, because he really is the general on the field.
Okay.
As far as, you know, keeping things in sync. Josh, I think, well, the whole board, by the way, was very impressed with your presentation. You guys just came across as like, you know, this is what we got. This is, you know, where we are. This is where we're headed. Here's how you can join in. And it was really a lot in just a few minutes of your time. So thank you. Very impressive.
Thank you. I will send an email to Josh about that park ordinance changes. I will say, are we done? Are you taking this forward, Josh? Or is this something that we're supposed to see through to the end? So I will ask him that question. Thank you for that feedback, Lisa.
So that was all I had. Did anyone, and thank you all for chiming in. Was there anything else?
Lisa has her hand up and
Yeah.
go ahead.
My hand button, so I used my real hand.
Yeah.
That's okay. I just wanted to think ahead a little bit. The Andrews Community Forest discussion is going to have to heat up this year, and you know, you can sort of feel it building. There's going to be discussion about the parking down at the bottom of the hill. And I heard you mention it a minute ago. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think I know we'll want your input at some point. Do you want to read like minutes of meetings, or do you want someone, me or someone, to kind of boil it down and give you kind of a set of questions that evolve from that, or do you want to be involved right from the ground floor? Or you can think about it. It's still February, we still got time, but come probably, I'd say April or so, we're going to have to start. Well, I think ACS is going to have to start dealing with the park usage and laying out some plans for actually getting there. We haven't really gotten anywhere in 3 years, so
I would say,
Is the Andrews Community Forest also on, let me say this a different way, on the parks ordinance that I read and we've updated, Andrews Community Forest was not on that. Is Andrews Community Forest working on a different set of rules than the town of Richmond?
That's a loaded question.
Okay.
But I have to claim ignorance on that. I don't know. I've tuned into some of their meetings, but you know, we kind of, the whole thing kind of crumbled and turned into a pile a year and a half ago or so. And it's been resurrected. We reconstituted the committee. We have some people that have a clear mission in mind, and it's going to be a good year, I think, but none of that's happened yet. So I guess I would say it's a wait and see at this point. But I think parking will be one of the earliest things that will need to be addressed when we do kind of open the forest to use again. And we're going to have to settle what users are going to be there and what kind of capacity does the park have, really. So those are pretty fundamental questions, and we don't have answers yet. So
okay, so our advice is more parking.
yeah, exactly. Although, yeah, there's a carrying capacity of that forest, and we don't really know what it is. There's been an awful lot of study done on it and so forth, but it hasn't been converted into actual, here, go do this, here, go do that kind of instructions that someone like me would need. So, and I don't think the select board has any real concrete or specific management information on that. So that's what we got to create this year. Needs to be done.
I will, we're around if you need any help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't go far away from the phone.
I'm noticing, and just for what it's worth, the Andrews farm is on Google Maps and Willis Hill is not. So that's just interesting.
Okay. John, is that the parking area for Andrews Community Forest that's on the maps? Because there is a parking area that's designated. It's
I will tell you in a second.
I hope so, and I think probably
Am I allowed to ask Lisa a question that's PAC related, that's not on the agenda?
sure.
Okay,
It's better now
question.
than it's on
Question.
meeting day. It's
If we
gonna
can
go
put this
south.
on another, Lisa,
Yeah.
what is happening to Route 2 that is going to go away near the fire station when the new road is complete? And the reason I'm asking that is there's, I'm talking about there's going to be a part of Route 2 that we're not going to drive on anymore because there's a new Route 2.
Right.
What is V-Trans doing with that part? Because that is a potential area for usage,
Recreation.
recreation.
Oh, that's new information. I gotta say, I don't know, but I would assume that the land that they took for the new approach to the bridge would be somewhat of a swap for what was there before. So the property owner that lost land for that new approach maybe gets that land instead. But that's just a guess in my part.
All right, I'm gonna take this offline, and if we could have an agenda item for next time, I'm gonna ask Josh about that. And I'm not sure what V-Trans has to do with it. I'll bring it back to the group. Thank you.
I'd suggest talking to Chris Cole, Transportation Committee. He may well know.
Thank you.
I
Thank
don't
you.
know directly, but try Chris.
Thank you.
Lisa, you had asked about Andrews Community Forest. The thing on the map is the parking lot.
Okay, good. I thought it was, but it's, yeah, people seem to park wherever they want, and it's not, it's something we'll have to close. Okay. Great, thank you.
More on this topic.
Let's move on.
Move on. It's 7 PM and the next item is follow up on Dugway Road parking signs.
So I was to have a meeting with Pete. Pete dislocated his shoulder. So
Oh,
it turned
no.
out-
no.
Turned out to be a couple of phone calls. Julia, are you tuned in here?
I am.
I am. Would you like to, this probably be a good place for you to ask your question and see if anybody knows more than I do.
Okay, great. I'm new. I'm Julia. I moved into Richmond just about a year ago, so I'm new to all of this. But the post guy, lovely fella, stopped by my house the other day to encourage me to do more shoveling and to let me know that they're going to put a parking lot in across the street from my house at the head of that trail. I live in the chalet on Dugway, right next to Chuck. And I wanted to know more about that because that's a big change from the way
I
things are
think
right.
that's a Richmond Land Trust question.
And
Yeah,
it's news to us. It's news
I
to
am-
us.
maybe Chuck knows.
My feeling on that was that when we originally wrote the bylaws, when that was the Richmond Land Trust, when we bought that as a holding company, Richmond Land Trust, we wrote into the bylaws, there would never be a parking area. That was what the residents wanted. When the land trust purchased it, that wording disappeared from the bylaws. But I'm fairly comfortable that Jim Feinstein has made it clear that the Richmond Land Trust is not in the parking business and they want to get out of the parking business as quickly as they can. That said, Julia, that and the talking to Pete Goslin about sight lines in and out of a parking area there, I'm fairly comfortable that you've got a little piece of heaven right there. We're not gonna be parking cars across the street.
Okay, great. Because it seems like a scary place to put a parking spot on that curve. Plus, selfishly, I vote no, but I figured I'd come and learn more about what's true and what's gossip. And Chuck, thanks for your help with the snow.
Yeah, no
I told
problem. You should tell your plow guy to plow a little closer to that mailbox so you don't get scolded.
No, you did it the next day. Chuck helped me with the snow. And yeah, anyways, there were guys like cutting a tree down and they were like, "Did you just learn about this parking lot?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I don't know how true it is." So here I am.
No,
So
I-
maybe I need to go like learn some more about the land trust then too. Is that what I'm hearing?
I will bump Jim Feinstein on an email tonight, Julia.
Okay.
Jim's a very, works with us all the time. He's with the land trust, good guy, just to make sure that rumor's about 10 years old, I think.
Okay. I mean, certainly parking that's not scary on Dugway would be really nice. Like some of those parking spots are a little dodgy looking, but anyway,
Okay.
thanks.
Stay tuned for my next part, Julia. So what
Okay.
after talking to Pete, Pete was I flagged Dugway Road. I flagged two types of flagging. One was three types of flagging. One was the addition on the 2-mile corridor to put perpendicular signs on that indicate a 2-mile emergency vehicle access, no parking this side of the road. I tagged with green flagging, any no parking sign or no parking on travel portion of the road sign. So we would have continuity of our new signage saying no parking on this side of the road. And then with 4 spots with blue flagging are places I had suggested that new signs be put up that would indicate no parking this side of the road. Mainly places that residents were putting stumps, cinder blocks, ropes, whatever to keep people out of there, which I think can cause as much of a problem as a car. That's it. I think it came out to be 12 no parking this side of the road signs, 2 no parking 2 miles emergency corridor, and 4 posts. That's it.
I'm sorry, Chuck, I want to make sure I have this. So 12 no parking the side of road signs,
Correct.
2,
On each end we have signs that says no parking this side of the road to allow access of emergency vehicles next 2
Okay.
miles.
okay. And the last was,
4 new posts for some of those no parking this side of the road
Okay.
signs. So Pete's gonna review the flagging on those, and as should everyone else. And act accordingly.
okay,
Is that it for follow-up on Dugway Road parking signs? All right, moving on, approve minutes from January 22nd of this year.
I'm sorry for getting those out so late. I was indisposed last week. So I assume you guys saw it today.
And you sent out also some from November too. Did we never approve those perhaps?
Not today. I sent out today, January 11th and January 22nd.
So I would move that we approve the minutes as taken by Matt for the January 22nd meeting.
Oh, I see, my mistake. I second.
What I had done, just to be clear, is I had previously sent out, in anticipation of the presentation to the select board, the wording with respect to the motion. So strictly speaking, it wasn't all the minutes,
Yes,
but it was the motions. It was the crucial part of the minutes from January 22nd.
okay.
And then today, this morning, I sent you folks the January 11th meeting minutes, as well as the January 22nd meeting minutes, which were almost identical, but a little bit more on the January 22nd.
Oh, okay, yes.
So do you want to approve the January 11th next time? If people haven't had a chance to look at them.
I did.
Okay.
Did other people ready to approve them, or shall we wait till the next meeting?
I have read the meeting minutes and I'm okay approving them.
So both, Diane, both January 11th and the 22nd?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's what you sent out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They just came out today. I saw them, I think, in my email. Yeah. All good for my part. Do you guys want to just do it next time? It's up, I don't care.
Well, let's get it done, and then I can get everything to done.
All right, do we have a motion and it passed?
Chuck moved.
I seconded.
Everyone eyed.
Aye.
I,
John Cone and I are aye. I don't know if you can hear. Thanks, Matt, for doing those.
Sorry, I was hoping to do it last week, but behind.
all right, then moving on, review calendar for 2024 and schedule meetings.
Yeah, I just wanted to double check on our next meetings. Because Matt had asked, do we need to still have 2 a month? And I think one of the ones coming up, John Rankin, you're going to be away, and I think Chuck is going to be virtual. So can we just take a moment just to see what we have? Would that be okay?
Yes.
Okay. See if I can. I should have grabbed these earlier.
Are you going to share
I believe
something,
our-
Diane,
I
or?
believe our
I'm,
next.
I'm,
schedule-
does
26.
anyone see them? I'm slowly looking on my phone to figure out what are the scheduled meetings right now. We
Our next
have,
schedule is 2/20. And then 3/11.
yeah, thank you, Chuck. Yeah, 2/26 and then 3/11. How's that for everybody? I know John Cone and I can do the 26th.
I would miss the 26th.
And Chuck, you're virtual that day, I think?
I would be virtual 26th.
Okay. Does it make sense for us just to meet on, was it March 11th, did you say?
3/11 would be our next schedule, I believe, after that.
How's everyone feeling about that?
Works for me.
Works for me.
All right, so we say March 11th. So how about if I contact Josh and take that one meeting off our agenda, the 26th, I will get rid of the 26th. Sound good? So 2/26 will be canceled and we'll meet on the 11th. That sound good?
Okay, thank you.
All right, and yes, all
We'll
good.
send out a sample agenda for the 11th, but it sounds like we'll all rework this because we've talked about quite a bit today.
Gotcha. Yeah, so Chuck, if you need any help with that, the agenda items, I'll have a response from Josh about the park ordinance changes. John Rankin and I will probably be able to bring some details of the work that we are hoping to do. More details to that. Chuck, do you need any help with V-Trans on repositioning of the ropes? Are you good with?
We'll put that on the agenda for next time.
Okay. Just want everyone to know that, come April, it depends on what our weather's like, but April can bring nice weather and it could bring recreational parking as it did 3 years ago. So
Yeah, we will need to open that up. I believe May 15th is our opening for. I'll put that on here.
We down to the additions to the agenda? Was there more on this topic?
No, I think we expired this term topic.
Okay, 2 terms are up in 2024, mine and Chuck. Do either of us given thought to signing up for another term? I don't have an answer.
And when does that, when do they turn over?
April 10th.
April 10th. Okay.
All right, yes, so I have not made a decision. And I'm sure the town would like to know soon.
Well, if Julia's still on, maybe she'd like to join us. Need to get some more people.
Young
John
blood.
and I would like to bow out if we can find other people. We'd like to be moving towards, but we're in it for right now.
Okay.
And Julia's shaking her head.
It's
violently,
But I'm
too.
trying to like
it's a
have
way
less
to get
jobs.
it's a way to get to know the town.
It's democracy in action.
It sure is, but already got 2 jobs. It's too many.
Okay, well, please don't, please continue to come visit us. I don't mean to throw that out at you and scare you for future meetings, okay?
All right, anything else? Are we ready to adjourn yet?
Before we adjourn, I do not plan on doing another term, so.
Okay.
I've enjoyed this, but. Can take somebody.
So- One thing, because of that many departures, I do think that
Two departures.
two departures, well, okay.
Mhm.
But I think bringing, we should make an effort of curating new candidates. I think people who are interested and have paid attention to this, so maybe if we informally each, we've done this before, but, put a couple of, 1 or 2 names in your hopper for discussion. Because I think, my guess is, we're gonna wanna get people who are, interested in it. Like, if we had a Gillette Pond person, or somebody near Andrews Farm, somebody who has, some vested interest in some civic service feeling.
Okay.
All right, shall we move to adjourn then?
You know what I mean?
So John's moving to adjourn, and
Yeah.
I think Chuck's saying okay by me qualifies as a second.
Oh, yes. We're doing that at 7:12.
All right, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.
Wow.
Aye.
Thank you, Julia.